The Outlaws Season 3 ending explained. What happened to the Dean? Rani is back in Bristol, and this time with even more trouble. In Season 3 of The Outlaws, our gang of misfits end up with a dead body, and strangely, it is all connected with Dean's arrest. Rani broke up with Ben in the previous season, and while it was tough on Ben, he did end up doing what he had planned. Ben started a food truck, and he found himself drawn to the receptionist working at the hotel right across his establishment. Tori too enjoyed Ben's company, and things were perfect between them until Rani showed up. Meanwhile, Myrna came across her old flame Sean at the airport, and he convinced her that they deserved a second chance. On one hand, Greg's new relationship was not in its best form, and on the other hand, Gabby was quite happy with her present girlfriend, but due to health reasons, she was forced to make some crucial decisions. Did Lady Gabby win the case against her father? Gabby was told by her gynecologist that she had only 2 months if she wanted to get pregnant because of her health condition. She assumed that her girlfriend would be interested in raising the baby with her, but that did not pan out the way she wanted. Gabby made up her mind to become a single mother, but the only problem was that she needed a donor, and she was running out of time. She asked Greg to help her out, but his life was already falling apart. As a member of the community service gang, he found himself entangled in trouble when Rani brought a dead body for them to bury. Also, his girlfriend broke up with him to get back with her husband, leaving him in a miserable condition. So when Gabby asked him to donate his sperm, Greg was not on board with it. He soon realized he had made a mistake when he found Gabby pouring herself a drink after she had been sober for 6 months. She trusted her father when he proposed that they spend a day together like they used to when Gabby was little. But as it turned out, it was a ploy to get her to sign legal documents stating that she would renounce her claim on his properties, assets and money. Gabby's mother had left her £4 million, but her father, the Earl of Gloucestershire, refused to give her access even after she had reached legal age. Gabby was not ready to settle for anything less, especially now that she had decided to become a mother. After her father's visit, she started to doubt herself once again, but thankfully, Greg came to her rescue. Greg realized that he had barely done anything memorable in his life, and helping Gabby get pregnant would be something that he would always remember and be proud of. Gabby had also hired Greg to fight her case in court. Greg was far from confident, and going by his track record, he was not good at his job. His shaky demeanor made it easier for the Earl's legal team to attack him and establish in the court that Gabby was not mentally stable enough to handle the wealth her mother had left her. According to them, the Earl, as her trustee, used the money in her interest, and there was nothing left of it. And since she was not sober or stable by the time she turned 25, she could not legally inherit the money. Greg saw a sliver of hope when he realized that Gabby might not have signed back the property that her father had shifted to the trust during his divorce from his second wife. He searched for the document and it was nowhere, further suggesting that he was indeed right. Greg was offered £500,000 by the defence's legal team, but he refused the deal. He was certain that they would win the case if he could prove what he had just discovered. Greg was confident that the defense would bow down the minute he mentioned the manor, but to his surprise, the defense pulled out a document proving that Gabby had signed a document to transfer the manor from her trust to her father. Greg felt defeated, but soon the date on the document caught his eye. The defense had established that Gabby's erratic behavior at the time of her mother's death anniversary was why she had to be sectioned, and the date on the document suggested that she had signed it 3 days after the incident. Greg argued that if Gabby was not mentally fit to access her trust fund, it implied that the document was null and void. Gabby's father was enraged, and in the heat of the moment, he ended up saying things that worked against him in court. Ultimately, the court favored Gabby when it came to the £25 million property. Things concluded on a happy note for Gabby at the end of The Outlaws. She was expecting, and she had the manner to raise her child more comfortably. And the best part was that her trusted best friend Greg was by her side to help her throughout the journey. Why was Rani desperate to get her hands on the hard drive? The Dean's man, Smiler, threatened Rani and left her an address where he wanted to meet her that night, but she instead decided to head there early, and that was when she discovered that there was someone else in the room. The mysterious man attempted to kill Smiler and attacked Rani, but she successfully knocked him out. She was about to escape when Smiler begged her to help him. He also had evidence against the Dean that Rani could use. Smiler died on his way to the doctor, but before that, he provided the coordinates to his safe. The safe consisted of a mobile phone and a box of jewelry for his wife. Smiler had recorded a video for his wife, stating that if she ever found the video, it would indicate that he did not make it. He was trying to get his hands on the Dean's hard drive, but he was killed before he could get access to it. Smiler was too involved in the Dean's business, and he would never have been allowed to walk away, and that was why he was killed. Tony Burgess, the dirty cop working for the Dean, was behind Smiler's murder. He had no idea that Rani would be there, and since she was a witness to the murder, it was important to falsely prove that she was the one who killed Smiler, and going by her track record, it was not entirely impossible to believe. Moreover, Burgess had tactically placed the murder weapon in Rani's bag while searching Ben's apartment. She was a fugitive, and the only way the rest of the gang could prove their innocence was by falsely testifying against her in court, and blaming her entirely for conspiring against the Dean. It was not just Rani that the Dean and his team wanted to blame the arrest on, but also Sergeant Haynes. A burner phone along with foreign bank accounts were found on Haynes' desk. They wanted to prove in court that Haynes, along with Rani's help, planted the drugs in the Dean's car, and therefore the arrest was based on false evidence. The hard drive that Smiler had mentioned was the only way to prove in court that the Dean was guilty. According to Smiler's wife, the hard drive was hidden behind a horse at the Dean's house. It was a strange description, but Rani and the group decided to take the bet in the hopes of bringing the truth to light. Did the gang manage to get the hard drive? When Diane realized that Sergeant Haynes was framed, she decided to join Rani and her gang to find the hard drive to prove Haynes' innocence. They turned off the water supply at the Dean's house and waited outside dressed as plumbers. They were knights in shining armor for the security guard who was asked to fix the problem. Ben, John, and Myrna entered the house, and Diane kept Dean's wife and the security guard busy with her ridiculous queries. The three searched for anything related to a horse in the hopes of getting their hands on the hard drive. Ben finally chanced upon a horse painting, and upon taking it off the wall, he was elated to see a hidden locker. Now all that was needed was the security code, and they had come up with the perfect plan for it. Malachi struck a deal with Burgess. He promised to betray the gang and hand him the hard drive to get a better deal and make money. Burgess was a greedy cop, and the minute he got his hands on the hard drive, he outed Malachi to the gang. Burgess contacted the Dean and threatened to hand the evidence to the prosecution unless he offered a sweeter deal. The Dean called his wife to check his safe. She walked up to the safe and dialed the security code. While John and Myrna had left before, Ben secretly waited in the room to note the code, and it was a success. The hard drive handed to Burgess was a fake, and Ben had the actual one with him. After the Dean confirmed that the hard drive was still there, Burgess realized he had been fooled. Diane tried to contact Sergeant Haynes, but since she did not receive the call, she left a message with DCI Monroe. They were running late, and she hoped that he could inform the judge about the evidence that came to light. She confessed that she had access to the evidence that exonerated the sergeant and Rani. Meanwhile, Rani, Ben, and Malachi went to the Bristol City farm to retrieve the files from the hard drive. Rani and Ben stepped aside when DCI Monroe met Malachi at the farm. He was shocked to see that Monroe was in one of the videos with the Dean suggesting that he was too corrupt. Before Malachi could react, Monroe stabbed him and destroyed the hard drive. Burgess arrived at the scene and they chased Rani and Ben. So was the Dean released? Even though Malachi was wounded, he managed to help Rani and Ben, and they ended up hiding in the barn. Burgess and Monroe found them there, but they were unaware that Diane had set up a surveillance camera in the barn. Rani remembered the surveillance camera, and she took advantage of the opportunity to catch Burgess and Monroe red-handed. On the other hand, the camera slipped out of Ben's mind, and to protect himself, Rani, and Malachi, he pointed his fake gun at Monroe and Burgess. Burgess confessed to killing Smiler, and Rani proposed blaming Ben for the murder, and she agreed to be an eyewitness to strengthen the case. Ben perhaps hated himself at that moment for trusting Rani. Monroe went on to confess every deal he had made with the Dean while discussing how they would frame Ben for the murder. Monroe and Burgess were happy with the deal Rani proposed, and they grabbed hold of Ben and dragged him out of the barn to handcuff him. At the end of the Outlaws, Rani's actual plan was finally revealed. Sergeant Haynes was accompanied by Diane, John, and Myrna, and instead of arresting Ben for the murder of Smiler, the policemen accompanying her apprehended Monroe and Burgess for their involvement with the Dean and for the murder of Smiler. The Dean was granted bail on the grounds of a lack of concrete, uncompromised evidence, and the Dean was ready to walk out of prison when once again at the very end of the Outlaws Season 3, he was arrested. Thanks to Rani, John, Greg, Myrna, Diane and Ben, there was new evidence suggesting that the Dean was involved in drug trafficking and had planned a murder as well. It is safe to say that the Dean will stay in prison long enough to never meet Rani and her friends again. Did Rani and Ben get back together? After Rani returned to Bristol, it seemed like she and Ben might get back together. They were former lovers, and clearly Rani still had feelings for him. Ben had moved on, and he was quite happy and at peace with Tori. When Rani came into his life, she brought along another crazy storm that endangered his peace. And unlike Rani, who lived for such thrilling adventures that involved challenging the legal system, Ben preferred a quiet existence. Ben loved Rani, but he had realized that he would never be enough to make her happy. So when Rani confessed that she was still in love with him, he was honest about his feelings. He did not think they were meant to be. They were better off as good friends who would have each other's back and a history to look back on, but they were not supposed to grow old with each other as lovers. The ending of The Outlaws Season 3 suggested that Rani made peace with the truth and helped Ben get back with Tori. So what happens to Rani? Well, she seems to finally feel content with herself. She was a free bird and she had nothing to run away from. She had a future to look forward to. Rani had evolved to become a more empathetic person. She was filled with nostalgia when she came across all her academic achievements still proudly displayed at her parents' house. And who knows, maybe she might once again pursue education, or she might give an adventurous career a chance. We can only hope that she will not end up in trouble once again.